Michael mentioned, I'm the agronomy lead with New Leaf Symbiotics. My name is Roger Bowman. I've been with the company for, almost 8 months now. But I've dealt with the product line for several years, working for other companies, and really excited for this opportunity to discuss the PPFMs and the Terracin Plus Dust product and the projects we have working with our partners at Low Tech. So if we don't have any other questions or comments, let's jump into the presentation. Let me know. All right.
Roger, if you might introduce yourself just briefly, and then we'll let Allison come on and introduce herself also before we jump into the slides.
I tried to let Allison on the camera, but that's okay for this morning, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, like I said, I'm Roger Bowman. I have 15 plus, almost 20 years experience with biologicals and agriculture. I've worked for product development, technical support for the last 15, 20 years for distributors, for manufacturers, 5 years with the University of Arkansas Cooperative Extension Service. So I've covered the breadth of it for a long time. And I'll mention before, several years ago, I was working in another job and we discovered these great microbes called methyl bacteria. And we were so terribly excited, only to get 6 months into the project and realize that New Leaf Symbiotics already had a commercial product. So we looked at their product, we've looked at our products, we looked at the capabilities of it, and you know, couldn't catch up. So when the job opportunity came along for this position to open up, I wasn't looking for a job, but I jumped at it because this is one of the few projects I've worked with over 15 years that really had broad spectrum, positive outcomes and different modes of action that we could pursue. So again, like I said, I'm excited to work with this project and with our partners. And I'll introduce you to my boss, Allison Jack.
Hello, I'm Allison Jack, Product Technical Director at New Leaf. I've been at New Leaf almost 5 years in a couple of roles. I started in the R&D team. I'm a plant pathologist by training, so I was running our greenhouse screenings for biotic stress pipeline. And then transitioned to the commercial team about 3 years ago. Was kind of involved in the very early days of this concept of taking our microbe with Lomutex's dust, and what happens if we mix them together, and what happens if we apply as a dry powder. So excited to see that not only turn into a product, but really take off this season. So yeah, very happy to be here. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Aaron, do you want to introduce yourself? Thank you for making the time to be here.
Sure. I'm feeling a little behind. I don't have my background swag going, but I'm working on it. It's a new computer, so gotta figure out the right folder to stick it in. But no, happy to talk. Happy to be here. Yeah, I've been here at New Leaf for about 4.5 years. It's really been fulfilling, I think, to see us come where we've got, and honestly, the team at Low Tech and the dust technology has helped us to get there. I think Planter Box is really a new novel way to get biologicals into the marketplace, to get them on the seed. And hopefully you'll see from our team today that I think that's really got a bright future. So
thank you for that, Aaron. And
yep.
From the Low Tech NewFields Ag side, we worked, it's been over 2 years now, together hand in hand with New Leaf Symbiotics and their technical team to do this research to make a planter box treatment. It's our first venture into bringing the biologicals into the dust plus, and we call it inclusions, or the dust plus lineup. And we were on well over 100,000 acres last year, and on early orders already this year we've exceeded those sales, and so it's looking very up and bright for us. And what I would like to ask the New Leaf team to do is just go through the very strong technical reasons and backgrounds and why we work with them. So when Brian and I and our team looked at companies to work with, and we still do, we want this, how shall we say, we want to know that what we're doing works. And New Leaf has a decade of experience along with our decade of experience in terms of doing the good work on finding microbes that work. And When we combine our two technologies together, as you'll see with what Allison and Roger come up with here in terms of a discussion, that it's really been a wonderful combination, and it's helping put our companies on the map and really getting people to look at this planter box space. The cleaner, safer soy aspect of dust, rather than talc or graphite, very much helps safen these pink methylotropes, and it's a key way of delivering biology to the seed and allows you and your customers to do it very easily, very quickly, and very safely. So it meets our cleaner, safer, greener, our cleaner, safer soy message with what they're doing. So with that, Roger, we'll let you take it away. And if someone wants to raise a question in the chat, that'll be great, and we'll see if we can address them along the way. And when we get to the end, we will open up for a question and answer session, in essence, as we have time. So Roger and Allison, if we could take maybe a half an hour of time before we get to the question and answer, I think that would be a good amount of time to get the subject covered.
All right, let's get going then. As I mentioned, this is an introduction to the combination product of New Leaf Symbiotics and the dust product. But you probably have seen stuff on Low Mutex, so let me introduce New Leaf Symbiotics to you. It's a company founded in 2013. We're still a small agricultural startup. We're around that 35 employee level at this point in time, but we have a high proportion of those that are PhD, a lot of microbiologists with degrees higher than mine, which ends up with over 150 patents. And if you're talking about protection in the agricultural market, IP protection and patents give you a position that we can go out and sell this product and stay unique. We're based at the Donald Danforth Plant Science Center, which is a business incubator across the street from Bayer Crop Sciences headquarters in St. Louis. And this last year, we exceeded over 1 million acres applied. And so we're very happy for that milestone to hit. But let's get into who we are. Aaron and Allison, you've met. Elizabeth, Derek, and Vanessa are our further support members of this team for information, for billing, for statistical analysis, all that. This is our team that supports this product. And let's get to the heart of the matter. What are PPFMs? These are methylotroph bacteria, and everyone says, well, so what? For years, we've known they've existed, but we weren't really sure why. Finally, about 13, 14 years ago, a university professor out of Maryland started looking at, well, we see this on every plant. We see them on the roots, we see them on the leaves. It's not an accident that they're there, but why is a plant maintaining this symbiotic relationship with the plants? And we realized as these microbes were colonizing all over the plant that they were providing nutrient uptake ability to the plants. So the plant's not always able to pull up fertility from the soil. It's not in the plant available source, or for some reason the pH is high, too low, whatever reason, the plant just really can't access this. The methylotroph bacteria are the natural symbiotic relationship that allows the plants to reach more fertility than it naturally would. And all of this is a net energy, no energy net loss to the plant. Rhizobia, other nitrogen fixing molecules all take carbon from the plant to do what they have to do, whether it's fixing nitrogen from the air or if it's growing out there and solubilizing phosphorus. It all takes energy from the plant. So eventually there's a trade-off for what the plant gets, for what the plant receives. Methylotrophs eat methanol, which is the byproduct like carbon dioxide is for us. Plants exude CO2 from the plant as they have cell division. So as the plant grows and we colonize with the plant, we cost the plant no net energy. So the plant's able to use that energy for photosynthesis and carbohydrate production, which ends up being a positive for us for yield. In the soil, as I mentioned, these are ubiquitous. These are naturally occurring bacteria. This is not some novel thing we decided to throw out in the soil and see what happened. But as the seed hits the ground, The colonization starts from the methylobacteria. They grow over the seed, they grow over the roots as they extend, they grow up the plant and above the soil as the plant grows through the season. And again, they're just using the methanol off the plant. So the plant's able to grow, the plant's able to extend its root system and reach more soil fertility. And these microbes will exude molecules called siderophores that make soil iron, soil manganese, and other nutrients more accessible to the plant, which therefore increases plant vigor, which then increases plant roots, which then increases the area that the roots are interacting with the soil for more soil fertility. So it's an ongoing process of just reaching more and more fertility in the plant, and the net phenotype of that, the net result of that, is a larger root system that's reaching soil moisture, soil fertility, and increasing plant vigor. Now that doesn't always correlate to higher yield, but it correlates to higher yield potential early on in the plant. So what we're aiming to with this product as we apply it is to really increase plant vigor early to give you the best shot of reaching your yield potential. And this is what we normally see when we say phenotype. This is just what the visible response that you see in the plant. And you can see on the left with the soybeans and corn that it's really a larger root mass because of this increase in soil fertility. So as the plant is emerging, as it's going that early season before it's hitting reproductive stage, we're keeping that plant from reaching a deficiency. Now we can't cure every problem, but if that fertility is out in the soil, we're going to help the plant go out there and reach it as best we can. And so, like I said, we have a little bit larger plants, but a larger root system. And you'll see in the pictures on the right, the above ground that we see in some of the herbs and leafy greens is just, it's a more vigorous plant. This is not a hormone. This is not a magical fertility product. It's just helping the plant reach its natural potential. And we do that through soil fertility. Right now, through Low-Mu-Tech, we have several offerings of this product. We go out with a seed treatment with 401, which is our strain for soybeans, and then we have a mixture of 401 with the dust product. For the same in corn, we do a 450, which is our corn strain, mixed in with the dust product. And I should probably step back aside here and say, we do go out as a seed treatment as a liquid slurry. But God made these bacteria to go out as a dust. So originally we went out to find a partner that would allow us to apply this product as a dust, not through the liquid seed treatment. Dust is a great product for us. It's similar consistency. It's the same percent moisture. Blending with this product is really no extra formulation issue for us. It's a great mix for us. So it allows us to go out as a powder on the seed, farmer applied. That really works well for us. So we're very happy to be partnered with Low-Mu-Tech and their dust product. But this is what we're selling it with now that allows, again, a planter box application is our preferred method, and Low-Mu-Tech has got a great product that allows us to do that. So let's step back and look at the planter box approach, why we would go that direction instead of seed treatment. We are gram-negative bacteria, so we do have a loss of viability when mixed with water over time. So we were looking again for a partner that allowed us to go into the planter box with the seed lubrication. So we were looking at our product compared with seed lubricant dust at this point in time. And our first question we had to answer was, if we add terrorism to their product, does it affect how their product works in the field? Does it affect singulation? So we were able to test that in the lab and go out into the field and collect that off planters and basically come back with the answer of no, adding our product does not change the performance of dust. So that was the first question and then the first hurdle we had to overcome. The second one is, well, great, we're on there and we're not causing any issues with dust, but now do we have any issues with our micro performing? And so we were able to collect this product again, testing it in the lab, testing it in the field, and basically say that not only did we succeed in delivering our product to the seed, but we actually increased the seed load compared to a liquid seed treatment. So that was our next question that we had to answer. And then the final one is, do we have consistent seed coverage across the field? I'll be honest, the first time someone said you could apply bacteria as a hopper box treatment and get just the same consistency, I had my doubts. I'll be honest. I have been 15 to 20 years working in seed treatments and ag, and by golly, that's how you ought to apply everything. Stick it in some water and slap it on there. However, looking at this product and what dust brings to the fact that it has a charge on the product that allows it to stick to the seed, not only is the coverage better, but it's, you know, really better. It's not just the fact that it's easier, it's much easier for us. So we do see consistent seed coverage across the plant and, sorry, the seed and across the field. And I'll show the results for that here in a second. Here's our first slide showing how we tested the singulation compared to the control. You know, we didn't want to add a product out there that added clumping, that added singulation issues, and we'd end up with doubles and triples and skips. So we measured that across the field. And as you see, you know, there's a small numerical difference here and there, but statistically, there is no difference between the control product dust and the product plus terraceum. So we were able to continue to have a great effect as a seed lubricant and still deliver our biological products. And we tested this out in the field at 14 locations and then the stand count at 12. And so we've verified this fairly thoroughly, and we've not seen an issue, and we've been very happy with it. But this will be one of the first questions the farmer is going to ask you is, hey, is this going to affect my planter? Because you've got quite an investment in seed out there. And so anything that affects that, you know, costs them money. We've been able to go out there and prove that we don't, and that it's a good system for delivery. Uh, as I mentioned before, seed coverage. If you look to the left, this is our traditional method of coating seed with our terraceum product. We aim for a threshold of 1,000 cells per seed, CFUs. So this is what we normally get is 1,000. And so we had questions of, you know, how are we going to have to change our rate if we're not quite as well with the planter box application with the seed lubricant application? And I'd say we were probably genuinely surprised to find out not only did we meet the threshold, but we exceeded it by a 10x level. So instead of 1,000, we have 10,000 bacteria per seed delivered across there and stuck well to the seed. It's not, it's going to rub off as it goes to the planter. This is after it's gone through the seed tube to the ground. This is our final delivery is 10,000 bacteria cells per seed. And like I said, we were very happy with that. And not only does it do the job, but it does it even better than what we've traditionally seen. All right, the next question, and again, back to the hopper box, is if you're layering that product in there as a seed lubricant, are we reaching each seed? Are we covering the plants once they've emerged with enough product to basically do the job that terracing claims to do? So we've collected seeds from the planter. We would mix it into a seed hopper, stick it across the different layers going up there, adding it again, following the instructions that you would normally do for a seed lubricant. And then as we cross the field at 20%, 50%, 80%, we would lift up the planter, collect a small amount of seed in a test tube, send that back to the lab, and we would do the CFU counts to see how many bacteria were on that seed and how consistently they were across the field. And this is the one that surprised me and really impressed me in the job interview talking with Allison initially was we're able to deliver consistency across 20, 50, and 80% across that field. It didn't matter when you sampled. The consistency was there, the level was there, it was still at the 10x rate. So we're delivering that product extremely well just by adding a dust product to the seed hopper. So this one is where the, you know, the farmer really gets serious about it is I'm paying for this product. Am I delivering it to the field? And our test results from real world situations answer that as a yes. And so we're very happy again with this delivery system. Now, step back a second. Now we've approached the product. Let's approach terraceum alone and how we've tested this in the field. And again, we're an agricultural startup, so we've done our testing, but it's been limited over the years, but I think we've been fairly thorough. Initially, we were looking at university small plot, private CRO small plot testing from 2016 to 2019. We have multiple strains. We have 12,000 strains in our library. We apply assays to see which strains work best on soybeans, which one work better on corn and other plants. So to prove that in the field, we take, you know, several strains out to a small plot research plot and we compare them to each other against the untreated check. So that's typically only done a small plot research. So we did that over the 4-year period from 2016 to 2019, again with universities and our CROs to basically ground truth what we've seen in the lab. And so we were able to select the 401 and 450 strains for commercialization, which led us to the next step for 2020. Excuse me. We ended up with a partnership with Intent Farmer Trials, which takes your commercial product out to real world farm. The farmer applies the trials. usually as a 2 to 3 treatment trial or a side-by-side, but uses real-world conditions, farming equipment, planters, and harvesters to see exactly what the response would be for a farmer. And so that was our 2020 large-scale farmer trials across the U.S. And then we followed it up in 2021 with some other key concept validations. These were less yield trials as much as they were proving the planter block concept, looking for nutrient use efficiency, those kind of things. So we've done the large trials and the small trials, and now we're looking to come back on better efficiency and bringing more value to the farmer with our 20 and 21 trials. I don't have the updated trial map for this year, but 2022, we moved on to delivering product to farmers and having them deliver their information back from the planter and combine and looking at real world conditions. We placed over 300 trials. We're still trying to get that information completely back in, and we won't get it all. But the data we do get back is not a setup situation. It's not a pampered small plot research plot. These are real world fields with real world farmers trying our product, sometimes several products. And with our in-house software, we're able to pull those treatments apart and look at the real response of our product across different management zones in the field. And so we've been real happy with the data this year, and we'll continue doing a real world farm test in the future. Once we get this information, and what we have on there from 2016 to the 2021 is once we get information in, we make that available on our website. So we do have a harvest report for each site showing the conditions, how we did individually across each site. So if you have an area that you're farming in and you see a pin on the map that looks similar, you can pull up your local information of the trials that we have closest to you anyway, and see what the response was there. And typically we'll have soil information and pH and variety, and you can see how this performed. It's not just us giving you a number, it's us sharing our own data with you. And this is typically, not the best ones that we chose. We typically share everything that we have, so you can go and see the positives and the few negatives, and you can see exactly how we do in the field. I do have an average going into the 2020. We've not added the 2021 since that was a little bit different approach to our testing. But we do have a accumulation of our data from 2016 to 2020. This is typically what we go out with the field until we update the 2022 data in there. Right now, we're sitting on a 75% win rate for soybeans and an 80% win rate for corn. I've tested, again, for 15 plus years with biologicals. If I hit 60% on a win rate, I felt really good about this product. It was rare to get much higher. But with a 75 and 80% win rate, the risk for the farmers decreased. We're going to see some response at that point in time. Our average over time is 2 bushels with soybeans, 4.5 with corn. Again, that varies year to year and field to field. If you've over fertilized and you've got perfect conditions and you've got beach sand for soil out there and the roots are just growing amazingly, biologicals probably aren't going to do a whole lot for you. They'll still increase, you'll get a response, but each field's a little bit different in how they respond. But our average across over several hundred sites gives us this number, and so we're pretty confident that you will at least see the 2 and 4.5 bushels on average year to year. We also increase root area. You see the 9.6 and the 6.2 for the soybean and corn respectively. The rooting depth is also increased. But if you live in a higher pH area, this last issue might be a little more concern to you. We do increase iron concentration and manganese concentration in soybean and corn. Iron for the soybeans, manganese and iron for the corn. But typically iron is limited by the fact of high pH or very low pH in the soil. So you'll see a chlorosis out in the field and it's not nitrogen, it's the iron. And iron is essential for chlorophyll, so therefore for photosynthesis. For soybeans, it's also very essential for nodulation. Iron is essential for the oxygen movement in the nodules. So if you're deficient in iron, you may form nodules, but the nodules will not be very efficient. So we are real impressed with this, and this seems to be across the methylotroph that they show quite a bit of response with nutrient uptake. These strains specifically are going to bring in iron and then iron and manganese for the corn. And I hate to brag, but I'm going to brag anyway. We have had our product in the Beck's PFR program for the last 3 years, looking to get their approval for our product, and we received this Monday. So this is fairly hot off the press for us that we do have their proven approval for our 450 for corn with the Terrasum product. We saw a 3.8 bushel average across their 7 locations, I believe, and that's a $12 return on profit or return on investment for that application. So we're real happy with prove that our technology works with a third-party researcher. And again, this is something that you can take to a farmer and say, it's not just us saying, it's not just some folks saying it. This is Beck saying this product works. And again, we're really happy to receive this. All right. What you might be more interested for this year is the results specifically for soybeans. This is a phenotype. Again, this is the visual that you'll see with the application of the product. You can see compared to the left with the untreated and the right with the Terrasum, we're increasing root mass. This is, again, just a very typical response for us to see this, that we're putting on roots. Perhaps it's reaching moisture, perhaps it's reaching extra fertility. I've heard the, well, I don't need that, but to be honest, most farmers I've ever walked the fields with would rather have more roots than less. It may not be a yield contributing factor to you, but again, it's a long season, so we don't ever know what's going to happen. So again, this is setting up vigor and yield potential early, and this is where they can go out there and dig and look and see what the response is. And again, typically, we see this in the early season stages of V2, V6. We do increase root area rooting depth, as we mentioned before, and the number of root tips. Root tips for soybeans are especially critical. Nodulation occurs on those cell division, cell elongation at the root tips of a soybean plant. So the nodules form where there are extra root tips. So by increasing the number of root tips, you increase the capability of nodulation, and that's what we see with the soybeans. And again, talking about the iron, pretty much if you're from Saskatoon down to Texas, you probably are dealing with some high pH issues in that western U.S. That causes nutrient availability issues, specifically with iron and some of the other soil fertility and soil nutrients. And what we're seeing is basically the fact that this is the natural way that the plant is able to access nutrients that it can't access through its own roots. So we're testing it in the roots, but we're also testing leaf tissue analysis, and we have several years worth of data looking at what we do and what we bring into the plant. And like I said, we are confident not only are we pulling up iron and making a bigger plant, but we're pulling up a higher percentage of iron. All right, Terrasum 450 for corn. Again, this is the phenotype. The larger roots, again, it's fairly consistent across our plots. This is the one thing we can normally dig and always show the farmer is that we're going to put on a larger root system for them. Here are the exact numbers again. Again, it's early season that we're digging these. Don't go out at R1 and start digging up plants and start cursing Roger's name. I didn't tell you to go out at R1, and you probably will not see quite the response. We did see it this year, surprisingly. With the lack of moisture, our phenotype did continue further into the year. But if you're going to go walk out with a farmer, do it between V2, V6. Dig up an untreated plant, dig up the one treated with Terrasum and dust, and we think you'll be pleased with what you see. Again, we're increasing root area by 6%, depth by 7%. So we are going to reach more of that soil profile. And again, with the corn, less so than soybeans with iron, but still an important part of photosynthesis. And so why limit yourself with the nutrients you're bringing in and you're not producing carbohydrates? Terrasum is going to bring in that extra soil. Fertility is going to show up in the plant and the leaf tissue analysis for iron and manganese, as well as just reaching more of the NP and K that's out in the field. All right, this year's results. I'll say this with a caveat. This is the result as of today. We are continuing to get information, so these numbers may change, but I had to pick a time to share. So these are the numbers I'll share today. These will not be the final 2022 numbers, but it gives us an indication what we're seeing this year. With the corn, we've got 16 data points in so far. We're at a 68.7% win rate and a 5.3 bushel average. And of course, you can see at the bottom here, it gives the locations of those sites. So if you find something that's possibly near you, maybe pay more attention to those. But across the average, we did see a good year with corn. Our win rate's a little bit lower, but it was a little bit of a spotty year. I don't know if y'all noticed, it got a little dry over the year, and we see that response more in corn than we do with soybeans on the effect of if they did hit a dry, that yields were affected. And that's what we're kind of seeing across, is we're seeing a lot of variability, and most of that's due to soil moisture. But even with the lack and lower yields, we're still able to pull off a 5 bushel yield. These are the individual sites. You do see we had a few negatives out there. Sometimes you apply a product and it changes the vigor, and sometimes that pays off. Often it does. Sometimes it can have a negative effect, but we'll include those negatives with our numbers. That 5 bushels is with the negatives as well as the positives. And you can see those numbers here, and it averages out to the 5.3 bushels. This is our data on soybeans, and we have 15 data points, an 86.6% wind rate. So again, soybeans are affected less by variations in the environment. And we're sitting right now on a 4.6 bushel average. That changes a little bit. We were slightly higher going into last week, but we're still well above our 6-year average of 2. So it was a good year for soybeans with tariffs on there. We see the fact that basically we're just giving that soybean the ability to do as much as it can in a challenging year. So we're very happy with the results. And again, here are the locations. Until last week, we had a 100% win rate. I hate to see that one red spot. Oh, sorry, we have 2 trials in now that are negative, but I'll take that win rate of 86%. Soybeans tend to be difficult to deal with in testing. They're just very flexible. They're very able to adapt to the situation. So it's often you'll see a response, but it's not a large response. This year, we're seeing a fairly large response, and we're able to get the value back out of the soybeans from the application. At the end of the day, this is what our product looked like in 2022. Y'all have probably seen these bags. They're individual bags with the pre-mixed powder. You'll have a scoop in there to apply to single hopper. For the seeder, if you ever center fill, you have instructions for how much to apply to the center fill, but this is what the product looks like. That product is about 10 to 11 inches tall. It's not a very large bag, but each bag for the soybean treats 40 units, and for the corn, it treats 50. So little goes a long way on this, and that's typical with biologicals. It doesn't take a lot to do what we need to do. And of course, once our product hits the soil, we're going to be growing and colonizing in the root. But this is the application rate that you'll see for each bag. And this is for our seed treatment. It's the big bucket. And that is an option out there. To be honest, I'm really fond of the planter box, but if you just got to mix and put up with the liquid seed treatment, we do have that option as well. All right, how much time? We are at 12:40. Michael, we've covered the scientific part of it. The rest that I have is more application, which is similar to your dust product. Do you want to stop now and take questions, or how much time do you want to give us for this? I'm assuming we've covered the rest of it.
Yeah, that's one. I think you did a great job so far. Let's talk about the application process, because that may come up as a question quick. And I think if we can finish this out in the next 5 minutes or so with that, and then we'll open up.
Yeah, it's just a handful of slides, and we'll cover that real quickly. Basically, we're applying this at a 1/2 ounce rate per unit. We try to layer this as the seeds are going in. You just don't want to walk up and throw it right in the center and say, yep, that's pretty good. Treat it like a normal seed lubricant. You want to get a little bit in the bottom of the planter before you add the seeds. And then as you're adding seeds, layer that a little bit in there. As you move across the field, those seeds will move and they'll rub against each other and complete the coverage. But we do want to give it the best chance, so applying it close to the edge, but starting with a little bit in the bottom of the seed tube for the first time you've added seed going out there to kind of prime the system. And then either as a center applied or a hopper box, follow the instructions on there for the rate. If it says 1/2 ounce, don't go, well, if the 1/2 ounce is good, then a full ounce must be great. Stick to the 1/2 ounce rate. Again, we're going out with a seed lubricant, dust, that has a specific rate. We want to stick to that rate, and we want to apply a specific rate of product out there that we've seen that is the best. So adding extra product, it's just going to cost more money. It's not going to improve the performance, and it could end up with extra product in the planter that you don't necessarily need. So follow the instructions that dust gives you for their seed lubricant, We apply at the same rate, and make sure that you, again, treat it as you add seed, that you add a little bit as you're going along. The same is true for soybean. It's the same application rate of a half an ounce per unit. Again, priming the system, and each bag will cover 40 units for that. Um, but again, the more time you take with it, you're applying it instead of trying to just quickly go down there and throwing a pouch or scoop as you go down into each one. You'll get some coverage. For the best coverage, take a little time as you're applying the seed to make sure that you are sticking a little bit. My favorite analogy, and Michael's going to hate this, is when I go to the movie theater and I ask for butter on my popcorn, which is essential, as we all know. I haven't filled it halfway up. We apply some butter and then we go to the top. Don't add it all at the top. It never reaches the bottom. So the same for me is true on a application like this. You don't want to stick it all on the top. You do want to layer it a little bit in there. The better application you get and the movement across the field will ensure that you get good coverage. Um, but take your time applying this product. Again, this is a seed lubricant, so we want it to go through the planter as well. And there are instructions on your planter for applying these type of products. Again, we're using this as a delivery system because of its application on there, but that application has been determined by Low Tech, and we want to follow their recommendations. If you follow their recommendations and you get coverage, our bacteria will be out there, and we feel confident you'll get it. But again, they've taken a lot of time for these application instructions. Our product is basically just using that as a carrier going out there. But again, their recommendations allow us to ensure good coverage across the field. So I would definitely recommend that you follow them. Um, and it doesn't have to be as you're going down the planter itself, but if you're just moving seed back and forth between seed boxes, or if you're arguing it into a center fill, the more movement you have with this seed over time. I'll say with biologicals that I've worked with before as a liquid seed treatment, we didn't like to over treat. The more that it treated and as it started to dry, the shear between the seeds as they moved would kill the bacteria. So we actually had a cutoff amount of time of 15 seconds for treating a biological. The more you move this product, being a seed lubricant, you're not going to have the shear issue. And the more you move it back and forth, the more it's going to be consistent coverage across those seeds. So don't be afraid of moving it. Some of our guys just absolutely move it to a box and then move it back just to have more seed to seed contact, which will allow us better coverage. And again, there's more than one way to do this. Whatever system you have, this product fits into it well. Uh, but don't be afraid of moving it back and forth. And the sooner that you can apply it and auger it up and shift it over or move it back out, the more movement you have will be better for the coverage overall. Would you agree with that, Michael? Or
Yes, please. Yeah, that'd be great.
okay,
Yeah, that's a good update.
yeah. A lot of our guys, like I said, they just even dropping it back and forth, just whatever movement they have, the more contact they had seed to seed, the better the coverage. And these are our best practices, technical considerations that we've worked with Low Tech. Preloading the system is important. Don't just walk out there and dump your seed and assume that the coverage is going to be there. Prime it a little bit to start with, but don't be worried about the dust off on this, the Low Tech product. Um, one of the reasons it is what it is because talc graphite will blow. And so you're never quite sure how much product you're delivering out there. The dust gives us a pretty constant product. If you apply it down there, it's going to stay down there. It's not going to blow off. So no need to over apply. And because of that, we can have accurate application of the biological. Um, I always like to throw this out because Brian has beat this into me that I always should mention this. If you're going from a talc graphite system to the dust product, the first time you use it, you'll be surprised how, I believe the scientific term is wonky. You're thinking how wonky your sensors get. It's going to clean that system out of whatever talc graphite is in there, clumped up and stuck to the inside of your planter. It's going to clean it out. And so every time it sees a nice clump of talc graphite, it's going to think of the seed. So that first 10 to 15 acres, your sensors are going to be telling you it's all over the board. Plant an acre or two, stop the planter like you would normally do anyway. Go back out there with your knife, dig down into the soil and look at see what your planter's doing. One, it'll give confirmation your planter is working well, but you'll understand that sensor is just basically seeing all that talc graphite um, extra from last season. But after you get through that 15 to 20 acres, you should be back, and your sensors will probably be showing you a little more accurate than they were before. But that is an issue you need to be aware of. Your farmers need to be aware of, hey, this is probably going to happen. Don't freak out. Don't worry about it. Confirm it with yourself. Get off that tractor, go back there and look at the seed. But once you've confirmed that, yeah, I'm planting what I'm supposed to be planting, regardless of what the sensor says, move on. The situation will fix itself, and we think you'll be happy with the product. I think that's my last slide, Michael, if you want to move on to questions.
Roger, as always, thank you for a great overview and showing how that the pink methylatropes have gone from being something that are on all kinds of plants everywhere into specifically the good work that your team's done, from DNA assessment to viability assessment, and getting them into a commercial place where we can apply them in order to get an efficacious effect. So with that, would like to have anyone raise their hand or take themselves off of mute and go ahead and ask any types of questions. And then as we finish out, we'll have Allison also make some additional comments here before we close.
Just for those of you not monitoring the chat, there was a great comment that came through that said, wait, so are these PPFMs basically like lactobacillus for humans in yogurt? And I said, absolutely. That's my elevator pitch. If I'm in the elevator with someone and they say, what do you do? And I say, well, I make probiotics for plants, right? So that's a really great way to get that concept across to people who haven't been thinking about the plant microbiome, right? But the gut microbiome is a great way to start. A lot of people know, oh, you need those bacteria to be healthy, and you can actually take those bacteria either by eating yogurt or by taking probiotics. So yeah, that was a great analogy. Thanks for.
And you look at plants adapting over time, where everyone's talking about climate change and how the environment's changing. Plants can adapt through evolution, but they'll adapt quickly. The bacteria evolve so much more quickly. So the plants use the bacteria's ability to evolve and move with the environment. So it's much quicker for the plant to adapt with the bacteria. The same for humans. We're more bacteria than we are human DNA, but that allows for a quick response to the environment. And this is just a natural response that plants have, is to use soil bacteria for a whole list of things. We've just chosen one that's with soil fertility. And again, if the plant's into a situation it's not seen before, that soil bacteria there is how it adapts. And so we're not creating a new system. We're not creating something that didn't exist before. We're just helping that plant by delivering a already existing microbe, but we're delivering it at a high concentration at a time when the plant needs it. So that's all we're doing, is steering the natural process a little bit earlier with a little more concentration to help make sure that we get early season bigger.
Thank you for that. Any other questions in the moment? So Allison, might you take a moment and briefly mention some newer things we're working on there at New Leaf, and maybe just get some comments in about invitations to visiting you all.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Michael. So you'll hear hopefully a couple more press releases out of us over the next two months. So big news is we now have 3 distribution partners, which is really exciting. And this is our final list of distribution partners. So we're set up for a great season and the ability to reach a lot more customers. We were really happy to get on 1 million acres last year, and we're just ramping it up so fast this year. It's really exciting. So we're also expanding into specialty crops, and that'll be some of the press releases that you'll see coming out from us over the next couple of months. And you may have heard earlier this summer, we got our corn rootworm mitigation isolate EPA registered as a biopesticide. So that's a federal registration. Our state registrations are pending, but our strategy for that, since we've been limited to 10 acres of trialing over the past guess 4 or 5 years of trialing now. We're really excited to do, like Roger talked about, okay, how do you transition from the small plot research into seeing how it works on farm? So that's our strategy for the corn rootworm product in 2023, is some large scale trialing with our distributors. So if you have corn on corn and you have corn rootworm issues, talk to Michael. Michael's going to have a chunk of this product, and we're working to generate as much on-farm real data as we can to help us position the product when we do a full launch in 2022. Also, if you're going to be at No Till, I guess that's January, right? In St. Louis, talk to us. Like we're right there in St. Louis. If you want to come by and tour the facility and see the labs, we can totally arrange like a special LoveU Tech tour during that week that everyone's in St. Louis. So just let us know. Am I missing any news, Roger and Aaron? Those are the big ones, I think.
Allison, appreciate that. And just want to thank you for all your good work and bringing this technology to the forefront. You know, New Leaf has maybe 20 plus scientists at work, and bringing Roger in has been very helpful as we go forward for the support for us as a team out there. And, you know, for the group that listens in, or that's the resellers that are on the line with us, this is one of the main reasons why we've chosen to work together to develop a product like TerraSym Plus Dust to bring it out commercially, is that we see the technical science capabilities, the research that's done, the patents that they have, and it helps to know the science behind things. So if there's any,
got a question in the chat.
yes, okay.
So the question is, can you elaborate on how the corn rootworm product works? What we know so far about the mode of action, and we're still doing a ton of work in that area because it's complex to tease out. But what we can say about it high level is that it's not a direct mode of action. So we don't see direct toxicity to the larvae when we do feeding studies. What we do see is just a mitigation in feeding. So what we believe and what we're still generating data on, and putting together the whole data package, but our current understanding is that the beneficial PPFMs somehow change the way that the plant is responding to the environment. We don't know exactly how that works. We're looking into root metabolites. We have a project going right now, looking at, maybe the plant is putting a compound in the root exudate that then the larvae, that's a feeding repellent. So we don't know the exact mechanism of that priming effect, but what we believe is happening is our microbe is changing some genetic expression in the plant that then changes its own immune system and its ability to respond to stress in the environment. So yeah, give us like 5 more years and we'll have that flushed out a little better. But it's complex on these plant microbe interactions, but that's what is unique about this one, is that it's not a direct mode of action. So it's a very unique type of mode of action within this space.
Allison, thanks for those great comments. Brian, do you have any comments, sir?
Yes, I just wanted to, excuse me, I just want to add in that we appreciate the relationship with New Leaf. And Allison, there's one more step I think you should add to that, is that you're not seeing this as a standalone component, right? As far as rootworm mitigation, it's more of an additional tool, correct? Is that something?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a tool in the toolbox. We've done testing on our own and with partners. Well, can you reduce the rate of your seed applied insecticide and then have this make up the rest of the effect you're looking for, right? Can you extend the life of other types of AI? So yeah, absolutely, that's a great point, Brian. It's a tool in the toolbox. We're looking at different ways that people might want to be adding it in to what they're currently doing for corn rootworm protection.
Great question. Thank you for that. Any other questions in the moment? We're nearing the end of the time. So thank you, Allison and Roger. the delivery mechanism as a dry box treatment is made it easy to use. And so we just want you to know that as people who are recommending it to your customers, or if a farmer is attending or sees this training, that this is a product that you don't have to have someone else apply for you. You can easily do that and make it work for you. So also here, wanted to mention that Lomutech and NewFields Ag has a great sales team out there supporting our products. So Dan Johnson is up in the western areas out of Mankato, and he's your Western Business Development Manager, and helps with bringing in and training our dealers and following up with them, and doing the farm shows and so forth like all our reps do. So we also have Chris Roberts. He's here in Eastern Iowa and parts of Missouri and Wisconsin. And also John Buck and Amanda Hill working out of Ohio in 5 states in that area. So with your support, we've been able to bring in more people to help Brian and I as we grow the company and grow our product line. And we appreciate that. So reach out to them for any certain questions you may have. And we look forward to helping you with using these new biological products on you and your customers' farms as we go forth. With that, I will sign off today, and we'll have a recording of this available with a link for any of you who want to rewatch it or send it over to any of your customers. So thank you all for today.
Thanks, Michael.